Okay, today is so good. I think this is one that a lot of you are going to really resonate with, and it is all around the hidden cost of silence. I think that this is a big one for us as moms, especially with partners in the home. And it's like that story. It's like the time when everybody's at the dinner table and one of your kids asks for a glass of milk and nobody moves, right? Your husband's like completely oblivious and you heard the request and your husband probably did too, or your partner probably did too, but nobody moves. And you are sitting there kind of feeling alone. Maybe you feel alone a lot within your own home. And you're like, oh my gosh, like, I'm always the one taking care of the kids. What would it feel like if he just stood up and was like, babe, I've got it? How would that feel for you if he was like, I've got this, I'll go get the milk and get them a glass and whatever, right? And so a lot of times we see this as like, for me, this is kind of what it was. And I also had this belief that it was my job as a mom to take care of everybody else. And it was my husband's job to provide financially. And that was it. But what I did not recognize for a while was the resentment that starts to grow over time. Let's just fast forward to like 5.5 years into my marriage, and my needs were going unmet. My self trust and my self worth were like super low. And I was just really starting to get resentful toward my husband because I was like, well, he has it easy. Like, I'm here taking care of the house, making sure the bills get paid, making sure the kids get to all of their activities, and doing all of this. And he gets to go to work and come home and be the fun dad. And I'm cooking the dinner so that he has a hot meal on the table when he gets home from work. I was doing a lot of the yard work. He would help with some of it, but not a ton. And it was just like all of this resentment that had built up over time. And really, it was myself choosing to stay silent, right? If you go back to like the last 2 weeks, like the fear of being assertive, like I'm just not an assertive person and where that came from. And then this fear on top of that, of like, I have this fear of being a bitch or perceived as a bitch or whatever. And then recognizing that toward the end of last week's episode, I just was like, it's okay for people to be wrong about you, right? But your husband is the person who is supposed to be the most supportive in your life. And the hidden cost of silence is resentment, not getting your needs met, feeling frustrated and unhappy in not only your marriage, but in your life. And I want you to really think about that. I want you to look at your life and maybe you have been I was too afraid. I and a lot of work goes into this in the beginning too, like let's rewind back to childhood days, right? Maybe if you asked for a need, maybe if you asked for something that you needed or wanted, it was met with either resistance or an angry parent or we don't have enough money for that, or who do you think I am, or who do you think you are? Um, Whatever it is. And so it feels to our body, whether you remember these experiences logically in your brain or not, to our body, the thought of having needs and then asking our husband to help meet our needs feels really uncomfortable. And remember, if it's not comfortable, it is not safe to the brain. This is why it's hard when we start shifting. And so this is why I always say start to baby step your way in, right? And so let's go back to this dinner example. What might happen if instead of being like, I've got it, and jumping up, well, what if you would have looked at your husband and been like, hey, babe, would you mind getting so and so a glass of milk? Start small. That is literally how small I am saying start. Because when you start with some of these smaller things, now it might take a few times, right? Let's just say dinner for a week straight. And you've been like, hey, babe, would you mind getting that? Hey, babe, would you mind getting that? Or now maybe he'll start to anticipate the need and he'll just bring the gallon of milk to the table or whatever, right? He's starting to anticipate this as being a need. Your kid is learning that it is safe to ask for needs. You start feeling less alone in your home and in your life because now your husband's like responding to this. And I firmly believe that there's a lot of good men out there, and there's a lot of us who are married to these good men, but society has really done us a disservice, and past generations, maybe even religion, has done us a disservice. Me, the way that I was raised, I was not allowed to ask for many needs, at least not within my home. My grandma was my person. And then when I got married, here's what's really interesting is let's look at the homes that a lot of our husbands came from. So the home I came from and the religion I grew up in, I was taught that the men provide for the family and the woman is the nurturer and the caretaker. And so I kind of took that to heart. And I don't know how the religion actually meant for it to be taken, but basically, I just took it as like it was my job to care for the kids. It was my job to stay on top of the house. And it was my husband's job to go out and provide financially. And then if I look at the house that he was raised in, it was very much a home of gender norms. So it was the man goes to work and provides, and his mom did damn near everything else. And so when we got married, he did not even know how to start a washing machine. Now, mind you, we got pregnant at 18. We had our first one, we were 19. So we were still fairly young, but he was an 18-year-old man, boy. We were like kids at that time, but trying to figure out how to adult. And now we have a baby on the way. And so he looked for someone who would take care of him. And so, for lack of a better way to say this, he married mommy. That's just like, that's the only way I can say that. And I was raised, my mom's been divorced twice. She's very narcissistic. And so I just learned to take care of my own shit from a real young age and don't ask for anything, don't ruffle feathers, don't speak up. And so just solve problems. And so now me and my husband come together, and maybe you can insert yourself into like some of these, looking at how you were raised, looking at how your partner was raised, and being like, oh yeah, I can totally see this. This is how our puzzle pieces fit together. My puzzle piece fit with my husband's because he wanted mommy. And I was a problem solver who just took care of everything on my own. So I stepped in and I was doing his laundry. I was cooking the meals. I was cleaning the house. He would go to work and provide. I was taking care of the kids when the baby came. And it was so draining and so frustrating, but we came into it with like these invisible contracts, right? I had my ideas as to what being a mom and a wife looked like and what a husband looked like. And he also had his own ideas of what these roles looked like within a home. And so we never discussed it. We never discussed how we were going to parent. We never discussed how we were going to like divide household tasks. None of it got discussed. We just came in silently, both of us. And he never asked me to. He never was like, you're the caretaker, you get to clean, you get to take care of the kids. I just took it upon myself. And then that became our way of being. And then several years into our marriage, I realized how big the resentment had grown. And then we got to shift that. And so I believe that we all have these good men, but I mean, some of them are not good. So I'm not saying if you're getting abused, that's a whole different story. I don't feel like I should have to put that disclaimer in here, but I'm putting that disclaimer in here because that is a whole nother beast. And that was my biological dad in our first home. There was physical abuse, there was emotional abuse. And then when he and my mom got divorced, then my mom carried on like a lot of those patterns with me. And so it's just really interesting, but it shapes us into like who we are and what we will allow, and we are the ones who teach other people how to treat us. And so if we're continuing to stay silent, then things are never going to change. The resentment's going to grow big and it sucks. So I digress back to, I believe that we all have good men who truly want to support us. They just don't know how. And I feel like, especially in my day and age, and probably a lot of like my community, like you who are here, who is here, how's the best way to say that? But you here, you're probably somewhere in your 30s, late 20s to 40 is probably like the age range that I pull the most in. And I feel like our generation of people, we kind of we were never taught how to set healthy boundaries. We were never taught how to speak up. We were never taught how to like assert ourselves in a way that is healthy. And so here we are flying by the seat of our pants, feeling resentment toward our husband, and we're really scared to ask because we just don't know how they're going to respond. And I did this for a lot of years. I wanted to ask for more help so much sooner than I did, but I was afraid that my husband had the same beliefs that I did, that it was the woman's job to take care of everything and it was his job to provide financially. But I didn't know that. This is a story I made up in my own head, which kept me silent for many, many years in our marriage. And finally, when I asked, he was like, I had no idea. Right. And even after I asked, it still took a while to get to the point that we're at now. Right. Like we are undoing a lifetime up until that point of the way that things have been. And so I do believe that there are a lot of good men out there who truly want to help. And it's on us to be able to speak up and assert ourselves and ask for the help and support that we desire to have within our homes. And so if it is something as simple as, hey, babe, can you grab so and so a glass of milk at dinner? When they ask, see what happens, right? And I also want to remind you there's a lot of nuances that can come into play here, and I really wish I could like teach them all on a podcast, but this is what I teach in my coaching and in my programs. So if you're interested in that, I do have a boundaries program. But if he grumbles about it, if he's like, ugh, you know that sigh when they really don't want to do something, and maybe you do it sometimes too, but that just like, ugh, yes, I can get it. And they get up, that is not your shit. I want you to remember that. It is not your job to tell him, never mind, I've got it. It is your job to let him grumble and get it anyways. Okay? So I just want to tell you that here because if you are like I was, he would grumble and I'd be like, oh no, I'm doing something wrong. This is where we get to reparent ourselves. If you don't know what reparenting is, I want you to think about what we talked about in the episode at the first of this month about the behaviors we learned in childhood. Be the good girl, right? We keep everybody else happy. We be the good girl. And so we're the fixer. So if somebody was like getting upset, we would try to fix it or we would try to do something differently so that they would feel better. It is not your job to make him feel better. And so when we jump in and save, I'm doing like little air quotes here, but like save them from this experience, they are not learning how to grow. So if he's grumbling about having to get up to walk to the fridge to get a cup and the gallon of milk, that is not yours to say, oh, you know what? Never mind. I got it. I got it. It's okay, babe. Sit down. Sit back down. Right? Because that is not serving you. That is abandoning yourself again and going back to the old way of being. So in reparenting, when these parts come up, you just get to tell yourself it is safe for him to feel, and it's okay. I am not in trouble. You're doing nothing wrong. You're simply asking for help. You're simply asking your husband to get one of your kids a freaking glass of milk. So when he gripes about it and he's grumbling, that is not on you to tell him never mind and make him feel better. That is his emotion that he gets to think through. And I want you to just know, even to this day, like my husband's not in therapy. He's kind of been looking, kind of not. He's kind of open to it, kind of not. And so that's not my journey to navigate for him. I can set the expectation that, yeah, I actually expect you to learn how to deal with your own emotions, but I'm not going to push you. But just know I can invite you to sit up to the table with me. You can choose to eat or not, but I don't know where this leads for us in the future. And like, it's the same thing, right? If you cannot allow your husband to grow and to experience some hardship in the home because you've been carrying all the weight and doing all the laundry, then he's not going to grow and your resentment's going to grow. And then the kids are going to move out. You're not going to know who he is anymore. And you're going to end up divorced because you don't know each other. and you're doing everything and you're so resentful toward this human being, and now the kids are gone. It's not about holding it together for the kids. Your kids aren't stupid. And so it's about being able to just start speaking up and stop paying the price of staying silent. You deserve to get your needs met. You deserve to have support in the home. And I am not saying it's easy. It took me a really long time and a lot of reparenting, a lot of telling that little girl, it is okay to have this need. It is okay for him to be upset that I asked for this. My husband didn't really get upset, but like the grumbling. And the grumbling, I think I remember more with like my dad and my stepdad was just like, ugh, like one more thing, just inconvenienced, right? And then my mom like trying to fix it or like whatever it was. And so that's what I would do. That was my pattern, is like I would ask for help in something, but if he would gripe about it, then I'd be like, you know what, never mind, I've got it covered. Or if I'd ask him to do something and then he wouldn't do it, and I would be too afraid to continue to remind him because I didn't want to be like the naggy wife. So then I would just do it. That is not helpful. That's not helpful for you because you're abandoning yourself, but it's also not helpful to the relationship because then he continues. There's no accountability for him, right? And that only leads to more resentment. And then again, to the future that I just discussed, where your kids grow up and they move out of the house and you are like, I don't know who the hell you are, but I'm done with you. And things fall apart from there. And so I just want to let you know, like, there is a hidden cost of staying silent. You do get to assert yourself. You do get to have your needs met, and you do get to feel less alone in your own home because you and your husband's puzzle pieces fit together really well instead of fitting together how they did in childhood. Like, almost like two child versions of you getting married, right? Where you did everything, he did nothing, and that's what he experienced in his home, and this is what you experienced in your home, and the resentment continues to grow. No, we're going to fit those puzzle pieces together really well, and they're going to shift, right? So, back to the milk example of him starting to respond more, him maybe bringing the gallon of milk to the table without you even having to ask, him jumping up when that kid asks for milk and getting it for them instead of like sitting there silently and looking around, being like, is anybody else going to get up and get that gallon of milk, right? So, start small, let it build over time. Your confidence will continue to build, your self-worth will continue to build, and then you can like step into new things. You can step into the next thing. Maybe it's not a glass of milk. Maybe now it's, I mean, okay, this is a bigger jump, but like for me, like my husband vacuums and does laundry 2 days a week. And so I want you to just start to really think about these things in your home. And if you do want more support, I do offer a monthly group clarity call where you can come in and you can get some support if there's an area of your life that you're like, I am just struggling, I am at a loss, or maybe you're feeling scared. You can come in and I just do it on Zoom, and we discuss it. We can hash out one area of your life. I also offer a clarity call. If a group call is not your thing, I offer a free clarity call where we can hop on and hash out one area of your life or one situation in your life. And there's so much benefit to that. So, both of the links are in the show notes below. Hop on to either the group clarity call or book an individual clarity call. I don't know how long I will do these individual clarity calls for free. So if you are even feeling a little pulled to see what it's all about, there is never any pressure to work with me. I'm not going to pressure you into buying anything. I think that that's, for a lot of people, a fear of jumping onto some of these calls. No, I am here to help you work through an area of your life that you want to. If you choose to work with me, great. If not, great. But I have offers from as low as $97, which is my boundaries course, all the way up to like my 3-month coaching packages. And so, hopping on this call, you have options. I'm not going to pressure you into anything, but I truly want to help you just see that there can be a different way of being in your life. And we work through just one little area where you can start to shift things so that you are no longer feeling resentment and that you are just, oh my gosh, I just can't even tell you when you start to open up in this area, like how much your relationship with your husband changes, how much your relationship with your kids change, and you just feel less alone in your own home. Nobody deserves to feel alone in your home. You and your husband are a partnership, and you deserve to feel that way. And that is what I start to help you create. So hop on either one of those calls. I will drop both of the links below, and I will talk to you next time.